which way are you leaning? Are you going with one of yours, or have you found something else for us as your best for Saturday night?
Too much pressure if I have one of mine. I can't handle it. I'll buckle under that sort of pressure.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Burning Questions, brought to you by Hip Pocket Workwear and Safety, who are responsible for these lovely jackets here, nice and warm. And just on Hip Pocket Workwear, before we introduce our guests, whether you are celebrating a win or shoveling in the stables, you want your staff to look their very best, and you can do that with uniforms from Hip Pocket Workwear and Safety. They have you covered for clothing, protective equipment and plenty more. Check out hippocketworkwear.com.au as we welcome in the first of our panellists today, Tim O'Connor, who did enough to hold his position in the senior sides last week and get another call up. How are you, Tim?
Hey, Skate. Yeah, I just did enough. Andy put the pressure on, but yeah, we're going to knock him off this week, so good to be back.
And the 300 game veteran, Andy Gath, joins us again because he just keeps tipping winners. So we just have to keep inviting him back. How are you, Andy?
Tim, Greg.
And Greg Sugars, I reckon Greg put in a really nice performance on his debut of Burning Questions as well, and his best bet was scratch, so he still could have a 100% strike rate there, or the meeting was cancelled, I should say. So we're expecting big things, Greg.
Yeah, I'm yet to tip a loser, so yeah, I'm in very good form.
And he told me he would have tipped 888 last week, so we'll give you that one as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that.
We'll kick off with the first of our burning questions. How good is Leer, and can she make it 2 in a row on Victorian soil from the wider draw this week? Andy, we'll start with you. I thought she was so impressive. It wasn't a heap of money for her, but after the one trial, she was pretty impressive at Kilmore.
Yeah, she done it quite easily, and she sort of come out the gate, with not being asked, so she's a chance of finding the front again. If she doesn't find the front, obviously it's a lot harder, but she won quite easily at Kilmore, and she never really was extended. Her New Zealand form was a little bit high. Her wins were really good, but her defeats were pretty average. So you'd like to see her back it up with another good performance. But she's definitely a classy filly, and she's going to be hard to hold out on Saturday.
She hit the wheels, Greg, in that first up run and got quite keen and ran along. Do you think this looks another race that she can win? She is taking on similar opposition, but she does draw a little bit wider this time.
Yeah, that's right. No, it was hard not to be impressed with her run at Kilmore, and by all reports, that it's interesting you say there wasn't a great deal of money for it, because by all reports, stable foreman Pies Kelly got plenty of it, so it doesn't matter if it doesn't win for a while yet. He'll be counting the cash for quite some time. So the camp obviously had a very good opinion of her moving into this race, and I believe at one stage it was touted that she may head up to Queensland for the Oaks, but I think she had a slight illness, or there was some sort of setback which stopped that. So that obviously shows you that the camp hold her in very high regard. And the way she won at Kilmore on a very ordinary weather night, she did it quite well. So very interested to see how she goes under these circumstances, with obviously Platinum Sparkle probably looks her main danger, drawn to her inside, and both fillies do seem to have quite good gate speed. So it's going to be a keenly contested race, and if she can come out victorious on this occasion, then she is a quality filly.
Tim, I think it's Greg mentioned, it's going to be quite tactical, but I just think she's got some X factor about her. She's only had the 5 starts, and I think she can continue on her winning ways this week. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think she can. That kills me to hear that, Greg, that they scooped the pool there, because I was real keen on her on that night, and I probably halved my bet given there was no money for her. I could not figure out why she wasn't a $2.50, $3 chance, and she just sat around the $7, $8 around that mark right up until the jump. And yeah, I was sort of kicking myself when she bolted in and won, but good to know someone got something out of her. Yeah, it's definitely harder this time around with the barrier draws. Platinum Sparkle's got speed, as we've spoken about. Even Royal Stars showed a bit of speed last start as well. But I think I agree with you guys. She just got a bit of an X factor about her. I think she's just a bit better than these. And as Andy said, if you watch that replay at the start, Chris didn't really ask her to come out of the gate at all, and she led on her ear. And I watched a few of her replays in New Zealand, and she showed good gate speed to lead a couple of times there. So even if they don't find the top or don't elect to go to the top on Saturday night, I still think she can win. So, yeah, I don't know what she'll open up. She'll open up probably odds on, but I think she's the one to beat.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it seems we are all on the same page with the exciting filly that is Leer. The second of our burning questions is brought to you by the Fresh Connection, who export Australian fresh fruit to more than 35 countries. Headed up by Damien Glengarry, who is the export manager and does a magnificent job, the Fresh Connection specialise in citrus, table grapes, cherries and mangoes. Thefreshconnection.com.au. I'm not sure how many of those 35 countries we will get to anytime soon, but lucky the fruit can make their way there. The second of our burning questions, fresh or fit in the Alabar Vicbred Platinum Mares Sprint Championship Final? That's a mouthful in itself. We'll start with you here, Tim. Gilby Adore, Ebony and Ivory are both first up and have raced in some pretty good company. There's other mares in the race that have been going well and are race fit. Who are you leaning towards to take out this mares sprint race?
Yeah, it's a really tricky one. I don't envy anyone having to do the Trots Vision or the form panel this week, Nikkita, because it's form lines coming from everywhere, isn't there? And as you said, horses fit and some that are fresh, which ties in well with the sponsor as well, the Fresh Connection. I'm probably going to lean the way of maybe Madam Reactor. I thought the draw was good and the horses showed really good speed in a couple of recent starts. It's not a race I'll be betting too much into. Orby's going really well. I'm really keen to hear what Greg thinks about his horse, Lara J. McRae. I don't know how many heats she's contested, Greg, but I think she's contested a few of them. And Gilby Adore, we've spoken about, got a lot of class, but drawn bad and first up. As a rule, me as a punter, I tend to find reasons why a horse fresh can't win. I sort of have a bit of a mark against them just as a starting point, but yeah, it's a real raffle. And good to see Lockie Prothero, young Mildura trainer, bring a couple down, including Guilty Hanover in this race. So if I was forced to pick one, Madam Reactor, but I don't think I'll have a bet in this race.
Greg, you're obviously heavily involved in this one with Lara J. McRae, and I actually thought she was well over the odds at $17 because she hasn't had much go right her past couple, and I think she's racing really well. How did you see the race playing out, and who do you think are the major dangers, and do you give yourself much of a chance in this race as well?
Yeah, we do. We're pretty happy with the mare leading into this. Has obviously been a long-term target for quite some time now, and she's performed very, very well in. I'm not sure if she raced in 4 or 5 heats of this, but we were obviously targeted at this series, and she really didn't run a bad race throughout the whole series. So it's right up her alley. The conditions suit her, and the class of the horse is where she's at. She had a nice quiet run last week in a race that really wasn't run to suit, but her own individual sectionals were quite good for this race. So. Ideally, she generally runs her best races when she's a front of the field sort of horse. So the draw's not great for her, but as I say, the conditions in the class are right up her alley. So it'll be an interesting race of tactics where they all unfold, and quite a lot of these horses are in form. So even the fresh ones, their form leading into this and for this race will hold them in good stead for this contest. And if we get a good run into the race, I'm sure we'll figure very well. I believe the $17 is well over the odds for her. But having said that, she's going to have a good run in transit.
Andy, to you now, and which way were you leaning? I thought Gilby Adore, we haven't seen her at the trials, but we know she's quite a strong filly. I think they probably push forward here and be quite handy. So, look, if she's ready to roll, that is the way I'm leaning. It's Ebony and Ivory. Thought her trials were good. But again, second row draw. She has been racing against some good horses. What way are you leaning? Do we go with the fresh horses or the fit horses?
No, the 2 fresh horses are the best performed horses in it, but they both got the 2 worst draws, both first up over the short. So it is a little bit tricky, but I'm with you. If I was having a bet, I'd probably be on Gilby Adore. And I agree with everyone here. I think Lara J. McRae is, she's huge overs at $17. I think it was $19. That might have been me, Greg. Sorry that took that. So, but she's going well, and we don't go her way. But if she's racing quite well, and she's proven before she's up to this class. But it is a real tricky race. It's not a race you'd be having a big bet in, I don't think. But but I'd probably stick it all.
We just jump in there. Are we all surprised that it's Ebony and Ivory's favourite at $3.50, given the draw and first up, or is that fair enough?
Yeah. Surprised, but I don't know who should be favoured, to be honest. yeah, but it could change late. I reckon. Might be in this race. So yeah, it might be $4 a field before they jump.
What did you think, Greg? Did you have if you was, I know it's tricky for you with a horse in it, but are you surprised that It's Ebony and Ivory is favourite?
No, not surprised, but I'm like Andy. I believe there's just so many winning chances in the race, and the market will probably be very even, close to jump point. So she's a quality mare, and has performed at a quite high level through most of her career. So it's no surprise to see her favourite. But I must admit, initially, just when the fields were drawn up and you just looked through the list of names there, that you thought it was hard to pick the standout straight away.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep, I would agree with that as well. We move on to the third of our burning questions at Tabcorp Park on Saturday night, and another great race, this one, the free-for-all. Can we declare Triple Eight back to his best after that win, and can he do it again this week? I'm going to start with Andy on this one. We'll leave Greg till last since it is his horse. Andy, Triple Eight was obviously really impressive last week, and do you think, despite the second row draw, he can win again this week?
Well, it's going to be difficult. He went very good last week, as Greg probably knows and most people know. Sitting in the Death over 22 longer at Melton is very hard to do, and not many horses do it throughout the season. So it's a really low winning percentage winning from there, and he's done the job really well. He was good first up. He hit the line really good in an unsuitable race. So, yeah, he's a quality horse. He probably done most of his race in New Zealand just following speed. So he was out of his comfort zone a little bit last week, but he was quite good. The race probably not going to map real good for him, in my opinion. I think always lead with Western Sonador outside him, so there might not be a lot of tempo on, and Greg might not be able to have the opportunity to make a move because of that. So I think he went well. I'm sure he's got a little bit more improvement in him, but it's going to be hard to see him win the way I've mapped the race.
Tim, how did you see the free-for-all playing out, and do you think that Triple Eight is back to his best?
Well, yeah, I do think he is back to his best. I do. I was really, I'm interested to hear what Greg thinks, but I thought he put the writing on the wall first up, Greg, when he ran at Geelong in that race behind Always Fast. Like, that was a night where not a lot of horses made ground, and I thought he savaged the line. So no surprise to see him win and back that up at Melton. So I do think he's back, but is he a betting prospect on Saturday night? Probably not. I agree with Andy. I think the map's no good for him. Always Fast, looks a leader. Western Sonador's drawn well as well. He's just gonna need to be really, really good to win on Saturday night. So at $4.60, I think he is at the moment. I just reckon he's maybe a touch of unders, only because of the map. Change the draws, and he could win for sure. But I'm really keen to see him go on now, because he's a real favourite of mine, and hopefully, Greg, some of the big races are in store for him later in the year.
Yeah, that's obviously the plan. So, really pleasing from a stable point of view to get him back in winning form this early on in his campaign. So he's in very good order. We're very happy with him, but I do expect another run or two under his belt will really top him off to have him 100%. But he's not too far off the mark, that's for sure. And the real pleasing thing about it was, as Andy just touched on, most of his races throughout his career in New Zealand, he was driven off the speed and driven for one run, and his high speed is his number one asset. So to drive him completely out of his comfort zone and win as well as he did was obviously a massive bonus for us. So very different scenario this week, as you've all rightly pointed out. I think it's the sort of race that who knows how it's all going to unfold, but on paper it looks like it's going to be hard for me to put him into the race this week. So he's probably going to have to rely on a bit of tempo up front, and if that's the case, he'll hit the line very, very strong. So he's in great order, and he come through that run terrifically well. So it's just whether the race gets run to suit. As we know, some days at Melton it's just near impossible to come from out the back. So no matter how good you go, but yeah, the horse is in great order.
Greg, from a work perspective, is he working the best he has since you've had him, or similar to last campaign? Has that spell done him the world of good in terms of his work and what he's showing you at home?
Yeah, it really has. Obviously, he came over, just before the Hunter Cup, and we were just thrown into the deep end and straight into racing. So, we were pretty, easy on him, and just made sure he settled in and try to keep him ticking along. Whereas this time in, he's come out of the paddock, and we've got to work him up from scratch and sort of do things our way. And he seems to be handling it really, really well. And we know the horse better now than what we did back then. So we're pretty confident that we've got a better horse now than what we had when he first arrived. Just for that fact that we know him better now.
I think we're all in agreement here. He can win the race, but he's going to need plenty to go his way from that second row draw. But it is there's one thing's for certain, that it is going to be a great race. The last of our burning questions is thanks to Felvo Fruits, specialists in table grapes since the 1960s. Michael and Josie Felvo are keeping the tradition going, and everyone loves their grapes. Keep an eye out. I know you'll love them. Greg, you've made a few Mildura trips recently. You might have to grab yourself some grapes for the trip home next time.
Yeah, it's certainly, you can certainly put away a few grapes on the trip home from Mildura. It's not a quick trip, that's for sure. So yeah, good to have those sponsors aboard.
The final burning question: when manners mean most, who can we trust from the stand in the Lightfoot Laurels for the trotting mares? It's an interesting one, Greg. We'll start with you for this one. We don't have a whole heap of standing start exposed form to go off in this race. Obviously, mares engaged that have been racing really well, but with so many races these days from the mobile, a lot of the horses haven't had a lot of standing start practice. For an example, I'm Set to Go's only had one in her career. I'm Ready Jet the same. Red Hot Tooth hasn't had a go from the stand since November 2020. So it's a little bit tricky. And from a driver's point of view, do you think sometimes it's advantageous to be back a little bit and off a handicap, so you're chasing rather than having horses rush up behind you? And how did you see this one?
Yeah, no, it definitely is advantageous to get them away. You know, if there's less runners off the same mark as you, so the handicap runners, it's rare you'll miss away on a horse that's by itself off 20 metres, say. But having said that, it's a bit of a catch-22 sometimes if everything in front of you does go away, or sometimes if there's stragglers that you can't get past, that your 20 metres can turn into 40 metres quite quickly, even though you've stepped away cleanly. So yeah, it's one of those unpredictable things with stand starts that that's why some people love them and some people hate them, really. But yeah, for mine, I would probably you know, prefer to be on one of the handicap runners in this race. Yeah, either Red Hot Tooth, you put a line through its run last week. We know she's the quality runner of the race. That's why she is off the back mark. But if she's too far from him, you know, it might be hard for her to get in the race. But yeah, either her or Lavana, I think, are probably clearly the two best horses in the race.
Andy, I went back through and had a look at their standing start records, and obviously it is a little bit tricky. Red Hot Tooth hasn't won from a standing start in a long time, but the couple that she has had, she has stepped away fairly well and fairly quickly. So she was the way that I was leaning towards, just because I also thought her first up run, where she made a mistake early at Ballarat, was brilliant. So what key things do you think are important in a race like this, where they don't have a whole heap of exposed standing start form to go on?
No, it's always a little bit tricky, but I think a lot of stands lately, a lot of the higher class ones, yeah, if you don't get away early and you're giving away a start, it's pretty hard to get into, especially 2200 around Melton. The smaller field probably helps the handicap horses to some extent, but still, you know, if I was betting the race, I'd be backing something off the front row and hoping it pings to the front and might be able to lead or lob fence behind the leader. Yeah, and I think one has got a really good chance of probably winning the race, in my opinion. Get into it, but yeah, they're the better horses. But what I've seen over the stands over the last 12 months, and especially trotting stands, obviously there's no pacing stands. Yeah, it's very difficult for a handicap to get into a winning position. And when you see the sectionals of what they have to run, you know, so yeah, no, it's a tricky race. But again, it's yeah, it all depends on the start. Run, so they'll be able to bet during the run and see what's happened. So yeah, but I'm having a bet. I'd probably Stride. I think, you know, she's pretty safe away, even though she's ODS. I think yeah, she's got a good each way chance, and she's going to be up on the speed. So she's the way I'd be heading.
Emerald Stride, I believe that was. We just had a little bit of in and out with Andy's internet connection. We'll have to make sure we have that fixed before his best bet, because we know we need to hear that loud and clear. Tim, it is tricky from a form perspective to have confidence when you are choosing a horse. How did you read this one?
Has Greg left me? He doesn't want to hear my opinion? What's happened there?
Sorry, I'm back.
He's back. Thanks, Greg. I got some pearls of wisdom to deliver here. Yeah, look, I found it really hard. I'm no expert on the stand starts. I'll defer to Greg and Andy on that. But all I can do is look at the form guide. I think Norkey and Andy and Anton's two are the only ones that haven't won from the stand. So, you know, I just sort of take it on trust that they all can handle it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the race. So I love the run of I'm Ready Jet last week, running past most of the field into second place behind Mary Law. I thought that was a ripping return. So looking that way, the 10-metre handicap, hopefully not a big issue if he gets away, if the horse gets away. Yeah, and maybe the other one was Red Hot Tooth. I know the 30-metre handicap's no good, but I was sort of half keen on her last week in Ballarat, and obviously got knocked over at the start and sort of caught up to the field and did as much as she could. So they were probably the two ways I'd play if I was forced to have a bet. But yeah, I don't know if I will be. What about you, Nikkita?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Red Hot Tooth. As I mentioned, I just think if she can begin quickly enough and from that 30-metre handicap make light work of that, she won't have any other horses around her. If she can tack on, her sectionals were excellent last week after she made that mistake at the start. Her last mile was, I think, the quickest of the race there at Ballarat. So I think the $6.50 was pretty good value for her, but also really impressed by I'm Ready Jet. But yeah, just had that maybe slight question mark. The only standing start we have seen her in was as a 2-year-old, and she was quite fractious before the start. I don't think we can read too much into that, given that she has matured a little bit now, but still just gives you that little question mark. So it's going to be another really good race. There is plenty of them on Saturday night, and we better move into our best bets. Tim, what have you got for us this weekend?
Yeah, I've come up with, I'm just seeing if the markets are up. I don't think they are, but I've come up with an old favourite of mine, race 5, number 1, Julian Yen. I just reckon this horse is flying, to be honest. John Justice has got him absolutely airborne. I did fall in love with him even more than I was at Kilmore when he rounded him up from last, and that win was, it's as good a win as you'll see on that sort of night. And he ran past some good ones. He chased Tom Andy's horse Tango Tara last week from back in the field. His run at Cranbourne before that was unbelievable. I think behind another one of Andy's, Finn Frost, who's going well, and that time was really good that night. He galloped, I think, when Bond was on him, and heartbreak for Bond. He probably looked like he was going to win there. And before that, 5 runs ago, I think he swept down the outside and rounded him up at Melton. So I just cannot knock the form. Drawn barrier 1. There's a bit of speed outside him, Aussie Battler, Crafty Bart, but it's only a 6-horse race, so there'll be the 2 place dividends. He might be, I don't know, $5 or $6 a win and $2.50 a place. I reckon you could have a pretty confident each way bet that he'll run top 2. So Julian Yen for me, race 5, number 1.
There's no doubt he's racing in really good form, and he could probably, as you mentioned, have a couple of extra ones next to his name. So it does look a good race for him on Saturday. Greg, which way are you leaning? Are you going with one of yours, or have you found something else for us as your best for Saturday night?
Too much pressure if I have one of mine. I can't handle it. I'll buckle under that sort of pressure. So I'm going to put all my faith in the boys from down at Terang in race 3, Celtic Cash. Paddy Lee's got his trotters airborne at the moment with his cousin Glenn to drive. Drawn barrier 1. In terrific form if you just put a line through last start. So happy to forgive that one. And I think from the good draw and the stables in form that'll be hard to beat. So put all the pressure on those boys.
2 weeks in a row that Celtic Cash has made the best bets list. Obviously, Tim just still went a little bit pear-shaped last week when he galloped, but it'll be bittersweet if Greg's able to do it.
It would be painful if Greg was able to love his best bet when mine went under. But anyway, good luck.
Andy, drum roll for this. What have you got for us this week? One of yours, or have you found something else with not the best figure form that you're going to tip us into?
I was going to tip one of mine, and Norm Jenkins said, please don't tip any of mine because you take all the odds. But sorry, Norm, I'm tipping Finn Frost early if you want to. So, I think he's a good chance of finding the top. He was real unlucky last week. He got held up and sort of full of running and in really good form. And I just think, I think he's a really hard to beat. I'm not sure what odds he'll be, but, he's my best bet of the night.
Wow, I thought that was a really quite even race. Would you mind Tinder Surprise, Pantano Stride, obviously. So there might be a little bit of value there. It'll be very interesting to see. But there you go. I didn't see that one coming. Finn Frost. So Andy Gath is heading that way. Mine is Leer.
I've got in early. I've just requested a market with the tab, so I'll get on early.
My best, I'm sticking with Leer. I just thought she was super impressive last week when first up at Kilmore, and obviously got quite keen in the run and ran some good time, tough conditions. So I think she's a really exciting filly, and I don't think the wider draw, as we mentioned earlier, is going to stop her from registering another win. Obviously, Platinum Sparkle looks the main danger, but I just think she still might be able to get over the top. Leer, so she is the way I'm going. That wraps it up for another edition of Burning Questions. Hopefully we have helped you find a couple of winners for this Saturday night at Melton, and we'll be back to do it all again next Thursday.